Okay, yeah, I realized the video ended too quickly on what I was saying, but uh, new video at least because at least I caught the rest of that before I had to finish the game and start another one. But what I was saying is the original, uh, in the original Resident Evil 4 from back from 2005, uh, Separate Ways seemed very short. Yeah, and I get it because it was just Ada's point of view and it skipped a whole bunch of stuff, obviously, so it wouldn't be like too long. It was just like a little shorter campaign compared to Leon's massive campaign, which, yeah, it was good that it was short, but there was like a lot of what felt like, I don't know, rushed things. Like, yes, it was shorter, but it was like maybe it felt too short. But now, in this remake of Separate Ways, thankfully, because man, we were waiting for it. We were hoping it was coming, and they had like no news on it, so we had no idea if Separate Ways is coming, but we really hoped it was. Um, and it felt worth it, and it was more than what truly I expected it to be. It gave a whole lot more than what the original was. More mechanics towards the hook um, gun. Especially when it comes to fighting, I don't know. I feel like it still kind of got repetitive, but it was still kind of fun. I felt like it, but it had a lot more than just a maneuver way that it was in the original Resident Evil 4. Again, back in 2005, not their remake, where it was just used for a little bit of maneuvering there, but now it had a lot more purpose. It had the maneuvering, which there was a lot more of that in than the original, and it also could be used in combat, which was good, especially when stunning enemies and so on. I don't know, parts of it all seemed also kind of weak, but I also know, well, there's almost, like, compared to Leon's, uh, I don't know, strength compared to Ada's, I know it's not possible to knock down every single enemy in a stun, which makes sense, because some of them were actually bigger than Ada. Let's get out of the closet. That sounds weird. Hold on. Gotta get my cat out of the closet and then I'll move. Move. I hope Sylvie's not in there. But yeah, there was a lot more to that, which I loved it. Absolutely was fun. The hookshot gun was more fun in the remake than the original. Um, Going back to the remake base game with Leon and Separate Ways. Uh, well, okay, before I hold that thought. Comparing, going back to Separate Ways from the original to this one, uh, which is almost a sort of sad thing to not see, but at the same time, maybe that was a good thing. I don't know. Um, in the original Separate Ways, it was always uh there were certain times when you were literally right beside Leon, but he just kind of never knew. And what I mean, like, you were always close to him, which, like, there were literally times where you could see him, like, look down and you could see him shooting other um, enemies, but he didn't notice Ada, or there were times that Ada was not allowed to see Leon because that interfered with her mission, but you were always so close to Leon, and like there were those times that you can actually see his game model like shooting or hearing him shoot and stuff like that. And that was not very apparent in this one. I mean, at the end, I think you could literally hear Leon like at that moment, I believe, was when Ashley took Leon's gun and shot those women that were surrounding Sadler. If you watch the original remake base game, you know what I'm talking about. That was probably the only time I think we could hear, like, Leon, but when you weren't in a call with him, but you couldn't see him. But it's like, yeah, thinking of that, kind of missed out about the original, but I understand why they wouldn't do that kind of now. Is, I mean, it is that whole separate way thing. And though, even though we were almost back and forth ahead or behind Leon, which is basically how the original Separate Ways was, um, that's how it went. Going on to my next point, what I was about to say, so the whole thing of now how completely Separate Ways had changed from the original, which is a good thing, but comparing it to what the remake base game now is, or so what they took, which is kind of interesting too, but what they took from the original remake, from comparing that from the first game, the things they took out, but then they added back in for Ada. I don't know completely if that's a good or a bad thing. We'll talk about that. I'll talk about that. One of the like the first thing, obviously noticed. Okay, the lift is gone now, which was kind of sad. Which in the remake it was gone. Came back in separate ways. Surprisingly, in the last chapter, they remade it there. Okay, that was the first thing. The second thing was the whole boss fight, or, well, technically, okay, there were like two things. So, at that time, where did the second Vertigo go? I theorized in the first, my playthrough of the remake, Resident Evil 4 remake, that the second Vertigo must have went after Ada or was going to reappear with Ada. Oh yeah. Well, at the time, before that, we knew it was a she. Whatever. Yeah. Yes, she did come back as the Black Robe and constantly was chasing Ada. Um, which was a surprise twist. Kind of fun, especially with those abilities before. Those beginning fights were almost a little bit of a pain sometimes. Not the first one, but mostly I'm referring to the second one. uh, then the U3 slash It fight, missing from the original remake, came back in separate ways for Ada, which was crazy, and the whole remodel of that monster in general. I mean, sort of looked the same. I still, well, I'll talk about the boss fights in a little bit too, but Um, yeah, came back for separate ways. Laser Room, also missing from the remake base game, came back for Ada. So definitely learn. Okay, so if there's major things that they missed in the base game, which I don't know if they purposely intended to be like, let's take this out, hand it all to Ada, I have no idea what the whole idea for that was of or why they decided to do it. Did it add more to Ada's sideline mission? Unclear right now. Some of it almost doesn't make sense, but some of it does. Like, um, yeah, it kind of does and it kind of doesn't. Like, the whole, um, laser room, giving it a purpose now for whatever that monster was that I ended up just calling Martin. I mean, that was just kind of randomly thrown in there. No, no idea what that was, but we also had different enemies that weren't in the original Resident Evil 4, like the cow guy and the pig guy, and um. So I mean, I guess it's a surprise still, so it's not necessarily a bad thing. Um, Stuff like that. Um, Bad things. I don't know. I still see like okay, and I don't necessarily have too many bad things here. But the main one I just wanted to complain about was yes, the laser room came back for Ada. That's cool. That's nice and all. And it got a purpose, but now it kind of lost. To me, it kind of lost the fun or excitement that it was with Leon. And I get that. I don't know. In the original Resident Evil 4 game, like, he was. There was so much, like, dodging. There was so much, like, motions and movement in it, I guess, as Leon. And then you get it with Ada, which I get it. But, like, before, when I had it spoiled to me, because of online spoilers, but I didn't see it all. I didn't see any clips. I just, again, saw that it came back kind of like the U3, um, the laser room. I just like, why would they bring the laser room in for Ada? That seems just like fan service almost. And I mean, I guess if she was still in her dress and stuff and whatnot, which I mean, she was in a dress, but her original dress or something. I just couldn't see it any more than like fan service, like for the boys, um, or guys. But it didn't have the flexibility as it did in the original. It was kind of just almost boring. Like I expected more out of it. Like it was too short on top of that, and it just did not have that sense of urgency and fun to it like the original did. That's kind of what I felt. And then almost the same thing with the U3 fight, which I get it. I do like the U3 fights in the Separate Ways remake, but the original had the whole escape the caged whatever, basically the cage escape from the original U3 fight as it was blowing up or falling down. what what it's doing, it was breaking off and falling down into like a cliff, but it had a sense of urgency that you had to escape it, and then you got the whole massive boss fight at the end, and which we didn't have in Separate Ways, but at the same time we were already running from the Black Robe, the whole game, basically. So, but I don't know, it didn't really still feel like a sense of urgency. Uh, Things like that. Is there anything else I can think of that kind of almost disappointed me? Uh, I don't know, like there was the whole, there was this small part, and it was the part of getting to the knife fight with Wesker and the Wesker with Krauser. Leon with first Krauser in the knife fight, which obviously we were running to in the remake before we took off and went after Krauser, but the knife fight in the original Resident Evil 4. So before that, when we're heading to save Leon from Krauser, there was a battleship part, which was probably also annoying and probably one of the hardest original parts in the original game. That you had to get like key cards and use them for guns and destroy the battleship before you can move on. That whole thing was missing from here. I guess, I don't know. I'm sort of complaining, but I'm not complaining about it because I remember in some videos, because that's coming back in the time that I replayed Separate Ways 2 years ago, around the same time, that the battleship was like one of the most annoying parts, but it was also fun for like Ada, and that was kind of her whole thing. Um, like one of the whole things that was only just pertaining to her. Another thing that I kind of like about this remake of Separate Ways is handing Ada not only more boss fights, but like more of the enemies that Leon had to deal with, which was not the case in the original Separate Ways. Not all of them, at least. Or definitely not. I don't think there were very many or any of all of the major monsters that Leon had to deal with for Ada to deal with in Separate Ways when it came to the original. At least now like I'm hardly remembering them or all of them, but like Ada did not have to deal with the El Gigante. Oh yeah, she did. She did have one El Gigante. Um, but she didn't have to deal with. Um, I feel like she didn't have to deal with the Novistadors. She definitely did not have to deal with uh, the. Am I forgetting his name now? Garrator, the guy with the claws, didn't have to deal with the Regenerators or Iron Mains at all, which, yes, even though they still are terrifying to me, well, I kind of had to figure they were coming because we got the infrared scope a chapter before that. And then, uh, yeah, there was so much more in this and dealing with the fights in the separate ways than it was in original, and I will commend them on that. That was a good thing to do because not only is it a surprise, it's be like, oh, now Leon and Ada are almost equal on terms, but there were still some things that were lacking, and I feel like the major things had to be that U3 fight and then the laser room, which the laser room was originally before the U3 fight, but I get why it's not there now. But then still surprising us on like whatever Martin was, that monster, and then having to have the original fights that were still there, like that Salazar fight. I mean, not Salazar fight, but Sadler fight. No, I'm just that pause was me remembering something major. So they cut out Ada's fight involving Krauser, which I thought would eventually come back, but it didn't. See, and that's what was confusing about the separate ways minigame in the original, because that Krauser fight, in separate ways, and I'm not talking about Assignment Ada, which was completely different, but in separate ways, in the original, the Krauser fight with Ada versus Krauser took place after Krauser was supposed to die on the tower that he fought after Leon's fight. Uh, Leon versus Krauser, which Leon was supposed to kill him and then escape that tower that was blown up and whatever to get to the next part. But in separate ways of the original Resident Evil 4, that was supposed that the Ada versus Krauser was supposed to take place right after that. So it's like, did Krauser not die? Did he pretend to die or whatever? Or got back up and went and fight Ada? That was a plot twist that, or I guess a sort of plot twist that did not make sense. But in this separate ways, Ada didn't fight Krauser at all. And that's another thing in this remake. Going back to the original Resident Evil 4, Krauser and Ada were already teamed up, basically. And they were both working under Wesker. In this remake, they had, like, no association at all. They weren't both working under Wesker, what it seemed like. Krauser seemed to be doing his own thing here. They did not have any conversation at all. They weren't working together. They weren't anything. And that's kind of a weird decision to make after what they did in the original Resident Evil 4, because it makes you wonder, why did they do that in the first place then? But, like, Wesker sent Krauser to do what Ada couldn't do, or what she wasn't doing. Wesker sent Krauser to kill Leon because Ada wasn't going to do that. And Leon was basically getting in the way of getting the sample and whatnot. But now Krauser is just kind of here in the remake, only serving as, like, the backstory for Leon, which was the case in the original, but now Ada and Krauser don't have that association, and now this whole Ada didn't stop Krauser from killing Leon, or almost kill Leon in the knife fight. Ada chased Krauser because Krauser had the sample, but then they still didn't meet. They still didn't talk. They did nothing. So it doesn't make sense. Is Ada got the whole sample from the Sadler fight before he ended up tying her up again and hanging her. So there's still that kind of weird thing going on. It's like they forgot about that whole, like, thing, or decided let's scrap the whole thing in general, and it's just like, why? But yeah, now they don't have the whole Ada vs. Krauser thing either, and yeah, I don't know. There's differences, obviously, between the original Resident Evil 4 and the remake here, in separate ways, than all of it. And I don't know, the original, of course, like I said, will always live in my heart. But this remake has been fun. Separate Ways in this remake has been fun. It's been great. It blew so many expectations and worried about me playing this game away. Um, and still, I mean, well, still things are kind of weird, but uh, but I still like it. I still love both games. I still officially miss the old voice actors and actresses, sorta. I mean, especially Ada's original voice actress. Um, she her voice was nice. I really did miss her, but I'm not hating on this one. She did well too. Um, just yeah, I don't know. I and after playing this version of Separate Ways, the remake version of Separate Ways, $10 did not seem like now enough for them to charge for it. Like, this was insanely, like, I was like, I have to pay for it. But now that I've played through it, I feel like they clearly did not charge enough. And I mean, I'm glad it wasn't more expensive, don't get me wrong. But it was like, they could have easily charged like $15 and it was like $10. Like 15, $20 for this. And it was awesome. It's like I feel like they under uh priced it almost. But hey, I'm sure they still made their money off of it because people were waiting for it. But I don't feel like it was a fail at all. They definitely put some work into this, and them being quiet about it, it's still just crazy. It was fun. They put a lot of work into it. I don't think I ran into too many issues. I mean, the thing I still probably mostly hated was the slow running, and once you kind of got stuck in times where you just could not avoid a hit, and then you were trying to get away, and then you were still stuck in the stumbling thing, and just end up being killed because you're just in a death hit you can't escape. Yeah, that was probably annoying the most. I think that was only the major thing I had to complain about. Besides still being dark, sort of, sometimes. That still kind of sucked. But this game was fun. It really was. So, yeah, absolutely gorgeous remake of Separate Ways. Way better than the original. Uh, absolutely. And a hell of a lot more than the original felt like, on story wise. It was crazy having to, like, especially at the beginning. Sylvie, no. Lost, are you under the chair? Okay, I have a cat under a chair. That's worrisome. Under a recliner with like no room. Cats. Alright. What I was saying is it was kind of crazy starting at the beginning of Separate Ways. Already in the castle, then having to backtrack all the way to ring that bell for Leon and then go all the way back. That was probably the most craziest thing. But having to do that, it's like that's what I mean. One step ahead and then behind of Leon. That just did not seem like the original Separate Ways did, but hey. Anyway, I think I talked too much. But there's so much that I loved about the original Resident Evil 4 that it's just like this game was my childhood. The original was my the remake had so much on it that re- my brain just told me is like I hope it's not gonna fail for me, and yeah, it there was just so much it relied on, and to me in my brain it's like, is it gonna be bad, is it gonna be good, I don't know, I'm worried, I'm not worried, I'm excited, I'm scared. There's so much. um but yeah, apparently I just talked for another half hour on my thoughts of this, so I think I am done with my thoughts. It was good. I mean, I hope anybody who wants to play Separate Ways, I'd say your $10 is like underpriced for what this was. I honestly think it was. It was not, definitely not feeling like that was enough to charge for what this was. And it's insane they charged that much. Um, Only. It felt so much cheaper than what they should have. But hey, it's affordable, and that says a lot at least. So yeah. Well, we're done with Resident Evil 4. I know the Mercenaries, I think it opens. Professional mode has been unlocked. Yeah, I know. I think Ada and Wesker are now in the Mercenaries, which I'm probably not going to play. Wait, there's two more? Excuse me? Who the frick is... else is... Who is that? Or are they different? Oh, I know. Never mind. I see what they did. I was like, who were... That's Leon's gangster suit. That might be Ada's original dress? Question mark? And that's Wesker. Alright, yeah, I was like, I knew Wesker and Ada were part of this, but I didn't realize they had the unlocked mode for their clothes. So that's nice. Yeah, I'm probably not gonna play the Mercenaries with them now. But I already did my Mercenaries take on after the original playthrough of the Resident Evil 4 remake. So yeah, I think I'm done talking. Said it was fun. That's all I gotta say. It was absolutely beautiful, it was fun, it was gorgeous game. And I'm gonna be sad because now they're probably officially done with the Resident Evil 4 remake. I doubt they're gonna bring back Assignment Ada, which was just that like other short mini game of playing as Ada where she was in that like black suit and she was collecting those 5 samples of like the Paga. There was really no point in that. It didn't add any story. It was just something else that you were doing around the military island. So Assignment Ada is probably not coming back. It would surprise me if they do decide to bring it back. But Separate Ways was the main one they were probably going to need to do. So yeah. Yeah, I think I'm done talking now, so if you join me for the whole of the Resident Evil 4 remake, and now towards the end of Separate Ways. Thank you for watching, tuning in. I still can't believe I'm done with it now. And like I said, I'm gonna be so sad about it. I suppose if I really wanted to, I still got my second save of my Separate Ways save file that I started, and then to catch up when I accidentally erased my other videos, I can go replay the last chapter if I wanted to by myself, but yeah. I probably am gonna miss it. I mean, I barely play shooters, I feel like, these days, but this was a major one growing up. And it was one I was looking forward to. So that's another major story game down for me. Well, until next time, bye.